Hi, welcome to today's On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway, author of On This Day in Tudor History. Just got a dog padding behind me. Now, where am I taking you today? Well, I'm taking you back to 1555, the reign of Queen Mary I. For on this day in Tudor history, the 16th of October 1555, Protestants Hugh Latimer and Nicholas Ridley were burnt at the stake in Oxford. Along with Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, they've become known as the Oxford Martyrs, and the site of their executions is marked by a cross on the road. Martyrs Memorial, a stone monument standing at the intersection of St Giles's, Magdalen Street and Beaumont Street near Balliol College, also pays tribute to these three men. Nicholas Ridley and Hugh Latimer were influential Protestants. Latimer had received the patronage of Queen Anne Boleyn and had risen to be Bishop of Worcester in 1535. But he was forced to resign his bishopric in 1539 when he opposed King Henry VIII's 6 articles. He was court preacher during the reign of Edward VI and served as chaplain to Catherine Brandon, Duchess of Suffolk. Ridley had served as a chaplain to Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury, and then King Henry VIII. He was accused of heresy in 1543, but managed to escape punishment and was made Bishop of Rochester in 1547 and then Bishop of London in 1550. He helped his good friend Archbishop Cranmer with the Book of Common Prayer in 1548, and he was also a member of the commission who tried Bishops Stephen Gardiner and Edmund Bonner in 1549. Ridley is also known for his clashes with John Hooper, a reformer who lived in Zurich in exile during Henry VIII's reign. In July 1553, after the death of Edward VI, Ridley signed letters patent confirming that Lady Jane Grey was Queen and went on to preach a sermon at St Paul's Cross on the 9th of July 1553, proclaiming Mary and her half-sister Elizabeth to be bastards. Now, that's not going to make him very popular with Mary, is it? On Mary I's accession, Latimer, Ridley and Cranmer were imprisoned in the Tower of London before being transferred to Oxford's Bacado prison. They were tried for heresy on the 12th of September 1555, and all three, surprisingly enough, were found guilty. On the 15th of October 1555, Ridley and Latimer were condemned to death, but Cranmer, as Archbishop, had to wait for a decision from Rome as to his sentence. On the 16th of October 1555, this day in history, Latimer and Ridley were led out to the stake just outside Balliol College in Oxford. Martyrologist John Foxe described the burnings of Latimer and Ridley in his book of Martyrs, and I'm going to share his account with you now. Dr. Ridley was dressed in a black gown furred, and Mr. Latimer had a long shroud on, hanging down to his feet. Dr. Ridley, as he passed Bacado, looked up to see Dr. Cranmer, but the latter was then engaged in disputation with a friar. When they came to the stake, Dr. Ridley embraced Latimer fervently and bid him be of good heart. He then knelt by the stake, and after earnestly praying together, they had a short private conversation. Dr. Smith then preached a short sermon against the martyrs, who would have answered him, but were prevented by Dr. Marshall, the Vice-Chancellor. Dr. Ridley then took off his gown and tippet and gave them to his brother-in-law, Mr. Shipside. He gave away also many trifles to his weeping friends, and the populace were anxious to get even a fragment of his garments. Mr. Latimer gave nothing, and from the poverty of his garb was soon stripped to his shroud and stood venerable and erect, fearless of death. Dr. Ridley being unclothed to his shirt, the smith placed an iron chain about their waists, and Dr. Ridley bid him fasten it securely. His brother, having tied a bag of gunpowder about his neck, gave some also to Mr. Latimer. Dr. Ridley then requested of Lord Williams of fame to advocate with the Queen the cause of some poor men to whom he had, when bishop, granted leases, but which the present bishop refused to confirm. A lighted faggot was now laid at Dr. Ridley's feet, which caused Mr. Latimer to say, "Be of good cheer, Ridley, and play the man. We shall this day, by God's grace, light up such a candle in England as I trust will never be put out." When Dr. Ridley saw the flame approaching him, he exclaimed, "Into thy hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit," and repeated often, "Lord, receive my spirit." Mr. Latimer too ceased not to say, "O Father of heaven, receive my soul." Embracing the flame, he bathed his hands in it and soon died, apparently with little pain. But Dr. Ridley, by the ill adjustment of the faggots, which were green and placed too high above the firs, was burnt much downwards. At this time, piteously entreating for more fire come to him, his brother-in-law imprudently heaped the faggots up over him, which caused the fire more fiercely to burn his limbs, whence he literally leapt up and down under the faggots, exclaiming that he could not burn. Indeed, his dreadful extremity was but too plain, for after his legs were quite consumed, he showed his body and shirt unsinged by the flame. Crying upon God for mercy, a man with a bill pulled the faggots down, and when the flames arose, he bent himself towards that side. At length the gunpowder was ignited. Then he ceased to move, burning on the other side, and falling down at Mr. Latimer's feet over the chain that had hitherto supported him. Every eye shed tears at the afflicting sight of these sufferers, who were among the most distinguished persons of their time in dignity, piety, and public estimation. What an awful death for both men, but even worse so for Hugh Latimer. It makes me cringe and go all shivery just reading that account out. Just absolutely awful. And of course, Archbishop Cranmer was executed by being burnt at the stake too. He was burnt on the 21st of March 1556, and I'll give you a link to my talk about that day, as I've done a talk on his execution too. So sorry, something bad did happen on this day in Tudor history. That was it, something very, very bad, and I'm so sorry to leave you with that. Hopefully we'll have something better tomorrow. You never know. You can subscribe to this channel by clicking round about there. You can hit the bell to be notified as videos go live, and please do give me a like as well. Thank you for joining me. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.